Greetings everyone, today we are going to have a tour around Barcelona with the BMW M4. Since LFM has this track for this week in the Sprint series, I hope everyone will benefit from this video analysis. Since I got a replay file instead of a video this time, I could record it as I would do with my own. The replay sent to me from one of my subscribers. First, let's take a look at the full lap without my interruptions. First, I would like to highlight one braking issue, which is he keeps on throttle even in straight line braking. Usually this is only sufficient when you have a very rotating alien setup, but for race setup you don't need to do this approach at all. Also doing this basically artificially put the brake bias to the front, which is not preferable neither for braking distance, neither for trail brake rotation. I also made a side-by-side comparison of my and his laps. The laps are resynchronized in various places, that's why you're going to see the left one is stopped a few times before entering sectors. I chose this camera angle to highlight the difference in steering smoothness, because ACC really prioritizes fluid inputs. Also soft inputs usually better for both tire life and lap times. I'm not sure yet if these inputs are due to the high force feedback, very stiff hands, or just the setup needs a lot of micro correction, but generally this is not a good approach. You can also see these twitchy inputs in the straights, which is completely unnecessary. So that was our live comparison lap. Let's go on with the proper analysis. Okay, so turn 1, he broke very early. Usually I brake when this line is compared to the front of the car is somewhere at this height. It's a bit hard to judge the braking point on this corner, but that's usually a decent reference. The apex of the turn 1, he did it quite right. You usually want your left tires somewhere here, just miss this small sausage. The right tire will be on the grass a bit with that line, but it's not a big deal. If you really want to go smooth, then place your left tire on the smooth part. Around this point where you want to be fully on the throttle, which he did alright. Turn 2 should have been a full throttle turn, but because he chose the wide line, he had to lift. And if you cut this whole section and just avoid this left sausage and keep this middle sausage between two of your tires, you can cut it with full throttle and you gain a lot of time. Turn 3 is very setup dependent. You need a lot of high speed aero to get a lot of rotation, but not as much as you kill your rear tires. Usually you go to the left as much as you can. It depends on how you exited from turn 2, and lift at this point and go for the apex. He missed the apex a bit. He should stick a bit closer, but generally it was okay. Although the setup had some issues with the rotation. Usually you want to apply the throttle when you have the straight line to this orange box or somewhere in this area in order to naturally drift out to the exit point. The correct exit point is somewhere here. If you drift out sooner, you try to carry too much speed. Also, you dirty your tires with these marbles. He turned in too early. You should keep your right tires here, just on the red-white part. And he also broke too early because you should brake at this white part. I would like to point out a general driving technique issue here, which is not using the trail braking as much for the rotation as he should. He does softly release the brake, which is good, but for rotating the car in the middle of the corner like this, he should keep the pressure about the 20-30% part. This corner needs a lot of trail braking. It can either be one long apex, just sticking to the curve, or it could be an even longer trail braking with a slight V-shape, not much, just a slight. He made a slight correction here, which he should not, because if he would stick to that line that he started, he would take a second apex, and since he missed the first, at least we would have a second one. Due to this correction, you can see we are drifting very wide at the exit instead of going to get this line. Turn 5 is very, very hard to judge. The braking point is basically just this patch. I usually start to brake the beginning of this black patch, but there's not much reference, and you have to trail brake very, very deeply into this corner. If you got the braking point and the turn-in and the trail braking right, usually you can start to apply the throttle when you start to see this stand. If you did all the previous things right, you would naturally drift as wide as you keep your left tires here, because this is the track limit. So you try to stick your left tires on the red part. This is one of the easiest places to invalidate your lap, so be careful here. The braking point for turn 7 is at the start of the white curb, and you want to corner slightly and brake deeply and hard, because you have to release the brake before this apex curb. The safe line here is when you put your left tires on this curb. He took a bit too wide arc. Also, there's an aggressive line when you just cut the whole thing and keep your right tire on the smooth part. If you do the hard cornering, you have to apply the throttle on this green part in order to lock the diff and make the rear stable when going over the second part of the curb. For this turn 8, you can cut this corner if you keep your left tires just here. If you go to the green with the left, then you invalidate the left. And the trick here is when you do that, you have to cut back on this small sausage very softly and aim the later part. Turn 9 is a very fast and tough corner. Generally, you want to stick to the left and parallel to the white line as much as you can, and tap your brake after the end of this white line in order to have a small but controlled snap in order to make a bit of a late apex here to get as much as exit speed the next straight as you can. The braking point for turn 10 is somewhere between the 150 and 100 board around the third, so it's 150 meters, and you have to trail brake this corner very, very deeply. His braking and apex was quite alright, but the exit he did not apply enough throttle. You should be on fully throttle, and basically you want to just kiss this yellow sausage with your right tires. After that, you want to keep on the right as long as you can with keeping your left tires just on the tarmac. If you do that, you can do this whole section with full throttle. He had to lift because the bad approach, and you just want to cut this apex as much as you can, so keeping your right tires on the smooth tarmac and the left tires just off from the grass. And you need to be on full throttle here in order to lock the diff and keep the stability of the car. If you did the cutting correctly and have the right speed, usually you have a few bounces here, like 1 or 2, and when the car settles, you start to trail brake for this turn 12, and you have to trail brake it very, very deeply. Sometimes a bit of a V shape, or just trying to stick close to the apex. It depends on the car and the tires and how you got the approach. Although I mentioned that he could trail brake more, but this corner really needs trail braking, and it's very obvious he had a problem here. So if he would trail brake here instead of giving a lot of steering angle and scrape the front tires, he would have a better exit. By the way, he lost most of the time in the last 2 corners. While initially he kept the car in the right place, which is keeping your left tires just off from the sand and the right tires somewhere here. He went to the right just before the turn, which is, I don't know why. You have to brake at this point at the beginning of this black patch. I know it's a thin ice using patches for braking points, but this is the best we have here. Also, he had a very unusual line here. You want a very, very smooth line from entry to apex to exit to preparing to the next corner. If you carried the descent speed from the last corner, usually you have just some time to go to the right in order to prepare for the next corner. And the braking line depends on how much speed you carried. It's either at the beginning of this black tarmac part or the end of this black tarmac part. And here comes everyone's favorite chicane. You have to trail brake really deeply into this first part of the chicane to have a late apex at the first corner and just kiss this curb but not go on it because it's very rough. The same applies to the second one, but you don't trail brake here, just lift a bit so you have some rotation. If you did the chicane smoothly, you naturally drift as wide as you just hit this yellow sausage, which also helps you finish the cornering due to holding the car. Turn 16 is usually very straightforward. You just don't have to hit this curb at all and keep your right tires off from it to not activate the traction control. At the exit, you can use as much as this area as you want. You just have to keep your left tires off from the sand. And that was our lap around Barcelona. I hope I could give you some useful information. If you have any feedback, idea or observation how could I do this better, please tell me so in the comments. Have a nice day. Goodbye.